Hello. Well, I'm back. Took a couple days off from making these videos and had some time to ponder things and took care of some business. And been looking at the news lately. There's a lot of talk about taxes. Um, I'm affected by them just as much as everybody else, and I think there could be some changes. Um, but to set a level playing field, let's look at what our how our taxes are based now. Right now, we have what's called a progressive tax. Um, Everyone's income is put into what's called a tax bracket, and each bracket has a certain percentage that is extracted from their income. Um, the more you make, the higher your tax bracket. The higher your tax bracket, the higher the percentage that is taken out. So if you make more, you pay more. When you're in the lower tax brackets, it doesn't seem like that much of a big deal. But if you're a business owner and you're making, hundreds of thousands of dollars, you get up into the 40% tax bracket, and there's at one time it was 70% of your income was taxed. So you got back about 30% of what you made that year. And through the magic of Congress, that could possibly happen again. That um, they write it off as saying, "Well, it's the rich paying their fair share." Well, what's fair? It's almost like they disincentivize success. If you start a company, you're going into that company with the sole, or 90% of the people go into making a company with the sole purpose of making money and increasing your wealth. That is your basic purpose. Sure, you can throw in some altruistic ideas in there. I want to just better my fellow man, and you know, I feed the poor. But your basic interest, unless you're going into a not for profit, if you're going into that business to make yourself wealthier. Well, if that's your purpose, what incentivizes you to do that? If the more you make, the government's going to come in and say, "Nope, we're taking that. Give us our chunk." You've put the time and effort into that business. You have you have taken the risk of whether that business succeeds or fails. You by putting yourself out there as a business have taken all the risk and made the best you could of it, and for your efforts the government takes more of your money. As your business grows, you make more money, government takes more of it. Why bother? Why would anyone want to? And when you get up into corporations, there's a reason why many American corporations went to other countries because they had lower tax rates. Why would they stay here when they could go over to Ireland and make more? um, if we have to do something about our tax rate because we have we have had businesses that have been fleeing our country. That is part of the reason why. Well, just recently, Trump set some tariffs on companies. He picked people that have been relatively unfriendly, whether economically or just morally unreliable to us. One of them was Canada. One of them was China. China is a major economic enemy to us. Their whole economic system is contrary to our own. Plus, politically, geopolitically, they're totally against our even being. They put tariffs on Mexico because Mexico will do nothing to stop the flow of immigrants across our southern border. So, well, we'll hit them in the pocketbook. And now we've got troops on our southern border that are basically trying to stem the flow. And for the most part, it's working. But the tariffs, I mean, you hit them in the pocketbook, and when they can't afford their tortillas, they'll start rethinking. But I'm not a big fan of the progressive tax. I, it seems like it keeps people from realizing the American dream. American dream is to come here with nothing and make a success of yourself. The only country in the world that people can do that. Or for years, we've been the only country that can do that. That a person can come here with virtually nothing. My ancestors did it. Thousands of people have come to this, millions of people have come to this country and made successes of themselves to the point that now we have people that are sneaking into the country to take advantage of it. So what should we do different? One alternative is what's called a fair tax. Um, another alternative is the universal sales tax, which could be incorporated into the fair tax. Basically, you're shutting down the IRS, getting rid of the IRS and the progressive income tax altogether. And basically, when you buy a product, latest I've heard is a 30% tax on whatever you buy right at the point of sale. But with the IRS gone, your gross income would be what you take home. And that has its merits. People would have more money in their pocket. It'd stimulate our economy because, you know, more people would buy because they have more money. My only worry is that, you know, eventually Congress is going to say we don't have enough, and they're going to raise the sales tax. Right now they're looking at 30%, but they could raise it to 40, 50%, 60%. You know, where do they stop? And I could see somewhere down the line the people have to say, okay, this is enough. If we're going to implement this, we should make it a law or an amendment that government has to live by a budget. I talked about this earlier. They have to set a budget every year and stick to it. How do we ensure that? I don't know. I you know, my mind goes to the worst case scenario. We could end up with something like Canada, where, you know, 6 months after they have an election, people say, no, we don't trust this government. Let's vote in another one. You know, you end up with, you know, 8, 10 elections a year. That doesn't seem very productive either. There's as many different scenarios as you bring up. There's 100 ways for each one that people can screw it up. What's the answer? I don't know. I know I have my preferences. I kind of like the idea of universal sales tax. Um, but I know the progressive tax, I'm not a big fan of it. And taxes in general, when you get to the rates that we're paying now, it seems like legalized theft to me. I mean, the government, as far as I'm concerned, the federal government should protect our rights, um, maintain our infrastructure, and there's only like three things they should be doing. They shouldn't be in education. They shouldn't be in insurance. They shouldn't be in their medicine. They shouldn't, you know, they shouldn't be in farming. That's not the government's role to be involved in all that. That are things that should be left to the states. But there's only like three things that the government should be involved in: protecting our rights, representing us overseas, and and maintaining our infrastructure, making sure our roads are fit to be built on or driven on. The rest of the stuff, that's just stuff that a lot of people got lazy and said, well, we'll just pass this on to the federal government. Education. Well, we'll just we'll put that in the government's court. No, it, when it comes to stuff like that, the government will screw it up every time. I mean, they've proven it over and over and over again. Our education system should be state by state. And that goes back to the free market. People would vote with their feet. If you don't like the education system in your state, you'll go to another state. Now, if that first state wants you to stay in their state so that they can collect taxes to provide that education, they're going to improve that education. And you're going to have high ends and low ends. I mean, that just goes along with it. You shop around. I mean, there's a reason why we have freedom of movement in this country. Because if you don't like it where you're at, you are completely uh, encouraged to go somewhere else. And that's the beauty of it. I mean, we have, you know, if you don't like the weather in one state, if you don't like the education in one state, if you don't like the taxes from one state, you are completely allowed to move somewhere else. The government should not be involved in insurance. They should not be involved in education. They should not be involved in, or our federal government should not. I'm very, very much a small government type of person. The less I see of the government, the better off I usually am. Not to the point where you have no government and then you have anarchy. And that's not good either. But basically, those three things, infrastructure, representation, and and uh, and defense. Those are the three things that our federal government should provide. All the rest of it should be left up to the states, as far as I'm concerned. But if you restricted the country to those three things, they wouldn't need that much of a tax income. They wouldn't need that much revenue. They wouldn't need an IRS. It's funny that the tax system that we have right now was originally designed to, number one, pay for the Spanish American War, and number two, to, well, it ended up, they kept it going. It started in 1913. 1914, what happened? World War One started. I think Wilson knew that, you know, America wasn't going to be able to sit this one out, even though he run on that. He run, we're not going to get involved in that war. But 1917, there we were. But it was designed as a temporary thing. Same with Social Security, it was designed as a temporary thing. Medicaid, Medicare, those were came out of FDR's socializing of America. But the income tax was basically to pay for the Spanish American War, and then it was extended to cover World War One, to pay for that. And they said, "Hey, we got a nice honeypot here. Let's keep this thing going." And it's been around ever since. And that's where you ended up with IRS being started, Internal Revenue Service. And I think it's about run its course. It's gotten to be a slush fund. Social Security has become a slush fund for whichever party happens to be in power. And that's not what it was designed for. It was designed so that if you hit on hard times, or when you retired, you would have a means to provide for yourself. Because face it, our age limits are nothing but increasing. You know, back in the 30s, I mean, people were expected to live to their 60s, 70s. Well, here I am, 2025, and I'm bumping on 60 right now. According to 1930 standards, I should be dead. But now we got, well, my own father is going to be 86 this year. And he's got relatives that have lived well into their 90s, some into their hundreds. So Social Security, and it's become a slush fund. Everyone and their brother comes to America to get their Social Security payment. I've known people from foreign countries that never paid in to Social Security, but they come to this country and they bring mom and dad with them. Well, mom and dad are at retirement age, so they retire. Boom, they get Social Security. Never paid into it. That's not what it was designed for. We've increased the number of people that take money from Social Security, but we never increase the amount that we put into it because people won't allow that. They're already taking a good chunk. And now you got people that have never paid into it, and they're reaping the benefits of it. Same with Medicaid, Medicare. You got people that have never paid into it, but yet they're getting medical treatment. You do away with the IRS, you probably do away with Social Security and Medicaid too. But it would be on the onus of the person that was paying in. Personally, if they did away with Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security, I'd take the money that they would have taken in Social Security and I'd put it into a um, Roth IRA or some sort of retirement account, and let the market increase it and everything. That's what I do personally. If they did away with Medicare, I'd take the money that I would have paid to Medicaid, and I'd put it into an insurance policy. That way, I would have those two aspects covered. But people don't think like me. Not there's going to be a lot of people that if they did away with those two can't really call them taxes, but those two aspects, they nope, free money, we'll spend it now. They would especially the young people. They don't think about the future. But it's a tough. I mean, there's people that argue on both sides of the tax coin, and all I know is what we're doing right now is not working. Our tax system has, it's started in 1913 and it worked for a while, but then it started outliving its usefulness to us anyway. The government has always found a use for it, but for the average person, it's really grown into a monster. It needs to change. As you can hear, my cat is being rather vociferous. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but I certainly do, and it's driving me nuts. But that's the glories of owning a cat. Well, I've got about 4 minutes left. Try to sum all this up. Just, I'm basically on here to start a dialogue, to give another perspective, another point of view. You know, you get a better picture of something if you look at it from all different angles. But that's my perspective. Leave some comments. Let me know where you think I'm mistaken, where I'm wrong. I can be wrong too. Maybe something I haven't thought about. Because there's definitely I can do that too, not think about something. But if you are, what I'd really like you to do is to like, subscribe. I'm not, I'm working on getting this built up a little bit. I'm maybe trying to monetize it. I'm on Rumble also. You know, like and subscribe there. You know, let me know what you think. Leave comments. Leave suggestions. Let me hear you as much as you hear me. That's what I want to do, is create a dialogue, a discussion back and forth. If I think something you say has merit, I will definitely talk about it. Give me some suggestions. Well, what kind of topics do you want to hear my point of view on? Um, and it could be, I've told you before, I have a wide range of interests. I, I'm, I write. I'm doing these. I make jewelry. I study history. You know, give me some ideas. I'd love to hear your thoughts, but I won't know your thoughts unless you tell them to me. So I guess now I'll leave here and start thinking about what I'm going to say the next time. But anyway, like and subscribe. Let me know what you think. Give me your ideas. Give me your thoughts. And I'll address them later on. But until then, Semper Fi.